I was recently on a shoot and I was the gaffer. And, I never lead a short film that I wasn't working on as a DOP. In most instances, what I tend to do is as a DOP, my goal has always been lighting for exposure. But with this experience, I learned something new where it's not just about exposure, it's not just about having the right amount of light hitting the sense of the camera, but it's also about lighting to tell a story. And when you're a gaffer, you have more opportunity to see this in terms of how much light works and your creativity and how much you can affect a story in as much as you don't determine camera movement, you don't determine, the composition of the shot. You determine what the shot looks like. You determine how the actors appear. And this made me think in terms of, okay, how does this light affect the actors? How does it affect the cinematographer? Because with the different pockets of light that you've given him, he has to make decisions. And sometimes it's the opposite. This is the frame, and then you have to light for the frame. But either way, that light has to match and it has to be consistent because you don't want people to think they're in a room and they're outside of a room. And one of the things that I found so funny was after finishing this shoot, I watched Power, Raising Kenan, and I saw one of the challenges that I was having that they were having. So with different setups, it's very difficult to maintain consistency because a lot of times films are shot on shadow side. So people tend to shoot where there's less light, and then that creates contrast and dramatic. It makes the image dramatic. But the problem is once the camera starts to move around and once you start having different setups. So for example, in this frame, my light is coming from this way and then I have a fill light over here. So if we were to cut and move the camera to this side and then start shooting me, that means this light has to move. So if the camera is, for some reason, we're at this side, this light then has to either we put it over here or we move it on top and shoot down or we do something. But either way, if you're looking at it, especially as a filmmaker, you're able to pick these things up and say, oh, that is off. But I feel like the more you make film, the more you watch light, the more you do this, the harder it is to just sit down and watch a show. I recently listened to a cinematographer who was like, whenever he shoots, he exposes for his highlights. So his camera settings are there for his highlights because that allows him to get more information in the shadows, which is information that we understand, but I don't know how much just the normal general audience that we make our films for do. And I think that one of the challenges I've had here on YouTube and that a lot of us end up having is we start creating these videos for fellow filmmakers instead of the general audience who do not really care about these things that we probably see. But for me, it's already too late because I cannot unsee light. I can tell when I'm watching music videos that they put out lights outside and they just blew them through the windows to create an atmosphere. But the problem with putting light outside windows and just blowing it into the house is you overexpose your windows, right? So your light direction, whilst you wanted to say it's coming outside the window, that's not really true because even on a cloudy day like I have today, the light tends not to be at 5.600, right? So light can be 6,000 Kelvin or whatever. It doesn't just blow. So it's very difficult for me to watch music videos now, but then also they get away with it because you're allowed to be creative, right? But the main point of this video was I wanted to tell you one of the most important things that I think one should know as a cinematographer is how to shape light. That three main things that my cinematography teacher told me, and that was understand direction, intensity. So it's direction, I'm forgetting, it's direction, intensity, and is it angle? Yeah, I think so. But then angle and direction almost is the same thing. But basically, you want to know where your light is going and then how hot you want it to be, and then how much of it can you control? Because for me, the idea is I want certain spaces, so where you want the human eye to see. So if we have three actors, right, and one of the main actors is in the middle, you can make that space hot, or you can light the two actors and then leave the actor in the middle a little bit dark, because that means something. And that's something that comes with you being a gaffer, and that how much you contribute. Being in film school, a lot of us want to be cinematographers, directors. Nobody really likes these other positions. But I've learned to appreciate these positions as creative roles, because they allow you to see the world differently, and they allow you to engage with the frame and help the DOP, especially nowadays where cameras move a lot. This thing of like the space, not the face. I think it's a phenomenal thing to think about, because once you've done that, it's very easy then for the camera rig to move. I listened to a DOP say he enjoys working on stage, because on stage you can put light anyway, which then allows you to just focus on the camera movement. So like on a stage, you can literally build a stage with lighting in it. And a lot of times, if you can expose with practicals, especially with digital cameras, that is also phenomenal.